This is a video showing the replacement of the battery in the SENA 10C Bluetooth helmet cam. That's a known problem with the battery not lasting very long, and mine was down to about maximum 20 minutes. I'm hoping that this replacement battery will fix that problem. The existing battery I think is 1000 milliamp hours. This one's 1100 milliamp hours. Bought this through Amazon, and I'll put the details in the description. The process is fairly straightforward. So this is what we get. Battery is as you can see 1100 milliamps. Comes with the correct plug on the end. So to get the unit apart, we need to do a couple of things first to prepare. We need to take this SD card out because that'll interfere with the removal of the two halves. And we also need to remove the jog wheel. Now we can do it two ways: either just force the two halves apart, or we can lever it off with a couple of very fine bladed screwdrivers. And the two halves come apart with the little T5 Torx screwdriver, and there are 5 screws holding it together. They're fairly long, so I'll remove those screws and I'll come back to you shortly. So we now have our 5 Torx screws removed. It's a bit tricky because the T5 Torx is a very, very small screwdriver, and it's really difficult to get them into the end of the screws, and it's almost like it's the wrong size. So persevere, though T5 is the correct one. So once we've done that, and we've already removed our SD card, next part is to remove our jog wheel. Now, as I said, you can just force the two halves apart with the screwdriver, or you can put a couple of thin bladed screwdrivers either side of the jog wheel and lever it up. It's on there fairly firmly, so you do need a bit of force. And as you can see, it's on a spline. Okay, so just remove these, or rather move these rubber covers out of the way, and it should come apart fairly easily. Be a bit careful when you do this. There's a couple of things that probably will fall out. Now, I have two PCBs to remove. This top one, it's connected via 2 pressing contacts. Try to get some light on it. One just there, and one on the other side just there. So you can just lever those apart. Or just pull them apart. Just be a bit careful of the video cable at the front there. It's fairly robust, but you don't want to put any pressure on it, obviously. So here are the 2 parts that will probably drop out or you need to remove anyway. This one's a little plastic bracket. It's located into a couple of holes. There's pins in that, and they're located here and here. And this little neoprene spacer, I suppose, it just pops out. Now this PCB is held in by one Phillips head screw located just there. And that should just pop out of position there. So it has to come over the jog wheel at this end, and there's also the protrusion for this end button held in the case there, so you just got to lift him up a little bit and move him back. That also locates on a couple of pins too, which is why there's a bit of force needed. Maybe just the one pin just there that goes through the PCB. Once you lift it clear of that, it comes up fairly easily. Now it's located also with a cable at this end here. So just lift him up from this end, move him back out of the way, and there's the battery held in by double-sided tape. So just need to lever the battery up out of the way, away from the double-sided tape. That gets in clear. Now there are two more Phillips head screws to remove, and that's the PCB for the jog wheel, and you've got to remove the PCB because this connecting plug here will not come past this little plastic boss here. So we just need to remove those two Phillips head screws. And we can then disconnect the battery. And if you have a fine enough screwdriver, you can get in between the two, between the plug and the socket, just levering back out of the way. And there it is. So as you can see, this is a 1000 milliamp hour battery, and the new one we're putting in is a 1100 milliamp battery. That hopefully will give us a bit of extra life, a bit of extra time for recording. So I'm going to reuse this double-sided tape. It's okay. So now when you reconnect the battery, there's a flat shiny side, and then on the other side you can see the metal. See if I can get that to focus. You can see the metal connectors there. So the metal connector, visible connectors, are facing down when you connect the battery. Just snaps into place. Put the jog wheel PCB in first, because otherwise the battery interferes with the location of the PCB. Don't worry about moving it. If the jog wheel shaft moves around, that doesn't matter. Okay, so then we just replace the screws. And then just press the battery into place. Make sure it goes up against the plastic boss at the end there. Just press him down. So this one goes into place, and as I said, you've got to locate it on this pin just here. There it is. Just press him down. Then we can replace our little bracket. Again, there's a couple of little, I don't know if you can see them on there, but a couple of pins on the back just to locate in those holes. And our little boss, there is a hole in the PCB here and a little protrusion on that plastic spacer. He just goes there, and the video card goes back in, and don't forget that's got to locate on those two connectors there and there, there and there. So just sit them above and press down, and we can put our final Phillips screw in place. And the two halves can now go back together. They just snap together nicely. The jog wheel goes back on, and it needs a fairly firm press to put that in place. You'll feel it slide down the shaft, and then you can feel that the switch is operating. SD card back in place. And we'll just test to make sure it's all working okay. Yep, they're all back up and running. And the final thing is just to replace the screws. And that's it. Thanks very much for watching.